Okay, so we've got a different color bird here. I guess you probably noticed. The camera turned off because I ran out of memory. The birdman forgot to check that. But it's all the same moves. So we have put the wing bones on. We've got the straps in place. And we're about to cover the leading edge of the wing. Now, you can cut this extra piece right here. We use this small reinforcement piece, and for this build we're going to cut this piece out. Here's some right here, and we're going to use this leading edge right along here, and we're going to glue that to help hold down the wing bones and help reinforce the leading edge. So if you want, you can put a staple into it. You can just cut it the way I'm going to show you right out of the page, or you can do it this way. So I'm going to cut right here, cut that little bit of a head off. So we're going to use the full length of this. We'll start down in the corner, and we want to cut a piece 3/8 of an inch wide, 1/2 inch wide, and especially here we want to turn and cut down a ways. And I like to just cut these in half. I'll describe the role these things play in just a minute when I show you where they go, but made it a little easier to handle. So you want to cut something that will cover, turn it around, that will cover the wing bones and reinforce the leading edge a little bit. This will cover down here. You can make it wider. I wouldn't make it much narrower than this, but it gives a little extra strength. If you want to just skip this step and just put another strap or two right here on the very end, everything's glued down pretty well, but you should glue the ends of the wing bones down at the very least. We'll go ahead and do this though. If you've used this large reinforcement piece, you're building a fairly heavy bird, you've got all kinds of material, you can simply trace this shape onto some of that paper, and you can cut a piece out very easily that will do the job. Okay, so here we go. We're going to match where we want to glue, and once again we'll spread that with our finger, and here we go. Got a little bit heavy there, so I'm probably going to have to take a lot back off of my finger, maybe some back off of this piece of paper. That's a lot of glue. So one way to do it is to just swipe off the excess with your finger and clean your finger off. Probably the best way to get rid of excess glue. Okay, so we'll line this up, stay a little bit back of the edge. We're not going all the way forward to the edge. We're going to stay back 1/16 of an inch or less. We're going to tuck this in. See how that flipped when I tucked it in with my fingernail? We'll tuck it in, lay it over on the top, and then tuck it in on this side. We'll try to get this, it'll slide around a little for you. Remember, this one had a fair amount of glue on it, so when you see a little bit of squeeze out, go ahead and clean it up with a damp paper towel. Okay, and again, I like to put that little crease in between the wing bones to help the paper really grip. Okay, that's that side, and you can do the same thing here with the leading edge of the wingtip. Just tuck that paper down into the crease so that you get the greatest strength you can. Now we'll glue this on, and same for the other side, and then we'll go to work on the tailbone. After the tailbone, we will start to work on building the structure for the nose weight and the nose bumper. There we go. So, by staying a little bit back, we also, where we cut, those pieces are going to overlap a little bit, which is nice. Okay. You have time to kind of slide that piece around for just a second or two. Here out on the end is not as important to tuck, the line, tuck the crease in there. You can do it if you'd like. I'm not going to. We're just going to press and get it to crease as best, or to hold as best we can. Okay. Fantastic. And here the little tip wasn't quite glued down, but the glue has dried, so we need to add a little more glue. And probably the best way to get in there is with a stick rather than a fingertip, because it's pretty tight quarters there. And voila. Now it's glued down well. Go to the other side. Remember to match your piece up to your bird, then glue it. That way you're always gluing the right side, the correct side. Okay. This time I won't get too much glue on. Hopefully just enough. And turn that around. Remember, I'm holding it by the edges. You can also do this on a piece of blotter paper with a brush, and that can actually be a little faster. But you are using sheets of paper as you do that. So here we go. Go back over here. I can see that this rose up a little bit. I'm going to tuck it right along here, but not any further out onto the edge. All right, lay this one down. Again, we're staying a little bit back of the leading edge. We're going to crease that. See that thing flop over when we creased it? Now we're going to, while holding the crease down with a fingernail or a stick or whatever, we're going to lay it over the top and then crease it on the back. Okay. There we go. That looks pretty good. Get the excess out of the way. Be sure to tuck that paper down tight and really wrap that wing bone. Now, I had a little glue on my finger. I didn't follow my own advice about the damp paper towel. That paper towel had gotten a little dry. You can kind of come back and clean most things up most of the way. Well, didn't do such a great job there, but even the Birdman can make a mistake. Okay, again, we'll tuck this in here, and let's get this last wing bone cover on. Okay. That might not be enough glue at this end. We'll see once I get to this end if I have spare glue to transfer back. Looks like I do. I'll transfer some of that glue back to that end. You want that glue to be still, you want to still be able to move the part. You'll see. As you build birds, you will see. Okay, here we go. Again, I'm not going to tuck or crease this side, but up here I'll do that. I'll hold it down and I'll run that crease. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to check our shape. We want to curl this leading edge and this trailing edge, but only from about here to here. We want to curl up. In fact, everything from here out is flat except this area starting about here out is curled up. You see? Like that. You don't want to curl this entire edge. You don't want to start your curve back here. You want to start it halfway out, okay? You want this to be flat and you want to curl halfway out. Is where you start your curve. Alright, same thing here. You don't want to really crease it. You don't want to yank on it too hard. And you don't want this curve on the curl on the back to go all the way to the wingtip. You want to stop right about there. The important thing is symmetry. You want both sides to be the same. You'll find that flying your bird, symmetry is everything. Okay, well, basic attitude of the wing, the angle of attack of the wing and the kick to the tail, all that matters, but when you have the basics right, symmetry then matters a great deal. Okay, there's our wing bone covers. So, here we go. We're going to put the wing bone, we just first need to get a size approximately, and it's right up against the back of the keel, and we don't want that, I say wing bone, tailbone. We don't want that tailbone. Watch your hands, work back in the scissors and cut that. Now I like to round this edge off, like so, round the corners, just like the other side. Prevents the sharp corner from digging in when you do end up curling that tail a lot. You could, with a sharp corner, get a little hard point. That point pokes through. Alright, we're going to hold that down. We'd like to have the tailbone on both sides, approximately the same amount of landing there. We'll trace that, put some glue on, and our tailbones will be almost done. I like to put covers over those as well, even though this is a nice flat large surface area and it glues well. I still like to put tailbone covers on. You don't have to. If you don't want to, I recommend that you do. Okay, and once again, now if you're going to put paper covers on, you don't have to be particularly neat about staying inside the lines with the glue. You only need to be reasonably neat about that. Here we go. You can reference your build plan one more time if you'd like, and just make sure that the spread on your tail is about right. That looks pretty good to me. That'll give you confidence that you're close to the build plan, and that it will give you the best flights, at least for beginners. There are other tail configurations for stunt planes and long distance flyers and such, but this is pretty good for a starting builder. Okay, so one thing you want to do is you put a lot of glue on there and you squeeze. Same with the wing bones. You could squeeze glue out here and here, and you could end up gluing down to the surface below. You want to be careful you don't do that, particularly if you squeeze very, very hard. I think we have just the right amount of glue, and we're not going to glue ourselves down. So hold that for 20, 30 seconds, a little longer if you use a lot of wet glue. And in the meantime, I'll go ahead and cut some tailbone covers. You can use any small pieces of paper. These look long enough. They don't have to be terribly long. They do need to be wide enough to cover the tailbone tips. So there we go. The size and shape within limits is not all that important. Okay, what we want is some paper with all this surface area of the paper and glue helping to hold down that wing bone so it can't even begin to get loose. Okay, we'll put that right on the edge, and just like the wing bones, we want to crease and get it tight to the paper so it really holds tightly. Okay? Really holds fast. There we go. And on the ends there, the ends where the ends are rounded, you'll just have to tuck it in. It'll be a little wrinkly there, but it'll be fine. Okay? Now we match this other piece. See how it's a little thicker up front? I want to, yeah, this way, and turn it over. See how I placed it first before putting the glue on? That way you get it in the right spot. Okay? There we go. And try to get about the same amount of overlap, you know, forward and back. Try to get it symmetrical. It always looks better. Looks a little more craftsman-like. Again, tuck these pieces in. So I didn't get that one perfectly lined up, but trust me, it'll work. If anything's hanging over, that tiny little strip right there, well, go ahead and knock it off. Okay? The rules are, there aren't many rules. Okay? Now, we want to check that the keel is still angling down just a little bit when you look at it. You don't want it level or up, you want it down with the waist of the bird between the tail and the wing tight to the table, tight to the book. You want this pointing down a little bit. This is the time to double check so that when you look at it from the side, you have a little bit of a kick to the tail. All right, we are making progress. Now, remember when I was building that other bird and I said you can get a tilted stick and it's still going to work? Well, this one is really tilted in there, and it's still going to work. So don't sweat that. It's not too big a deal. We're going to get a couple more of our sticks here. Let's get rid of that sharp point. And that one, we've already gotten rid of the sharp point. We're now going to place the nose supports in. And we want to go about to halfway at least, maybe a little past halfway, 3/4 of the way from the wing root leading edge to the trailing edge. So halfway is here and 3/4 is there. We're going to go that far and we're going to stick out 3/4 of an inch. That's about right there, 3/4. If you need something to measure by, well, we have the vinyl strips that were supplied as your nose weights, and those are 3/4 of an inch. That'll do it. Okay, let's cut that. Again, keep your hands away. You can groove it in there, crease it, and if you have enough of a groove, it'll break. By the way, if you get in science class and you're working with glass tubing, that's one way you do it, is you scratch a groove into the glass tubing, and then while wearing safety goggles, because little bits of glass will fly, you snap the tube. Okay, so we're going to butter this up. Good bit of glue, nice big glob, because we're going to be, first of all, this weight is forward of the center of gravity. I'll show you the center of gravity point. It's very easy. It's right here below the, right at the junction of the head and the wing. That's the center of gravity of the bird after it's completed. So we want to get lots of glue in there, and then look and see, is we want wet glue, so there's not enough. We're going to add some more. Okay? Don't be shy with the glue when it comes to this. This really needs to stay put. And you also want to make sure that you're getting far enough in there, so only 3/4 of an inch is sticking out. And you also want to really push it down into the bottom of the keel. You can't, of course, push here because the spine or the backbone's in the way, but you certainly can push here. Okay? And as you can see, it's about 3/4 of an inch sticking out the front. The next piece doesn't need to be as long, we are going to be doing our tether, and the tether is either, if you're pretty young, I don't recommend doing a fast spinning tether. You want that to be take that halfway point, halfway between the leading edge and the trailing edge. If you want to, you can measure, and there's halfway. That's where you should put yours. However, you have to get above where we just put that stick in. That's probably going to be right about here. We're going to be putting that hole. That stick is passing through, underneath. So you're going to have to get your tether hole above that. But for the fast spinning or faster spinning bird, you want to go halfway between this halfway point and the leading edge. In other words, 1/4 of the way back from the leading edge of the wing root is the maximum forward. This point right here, the one at the even with the leading edge, is going to be your center of gravity. So when you balance how much weight you're going to be using, you can either stick a pin in there or just hold it close, and you can play with the amount of weight, and that's how you know you have the right amount of weight. When you put the tether behind the center of gravity, the nose is going to hang down, and when you go way back to halfway down the wing cord, it's going to hang quite a ways down, and that's going to keep it from spinning too fast for younger kids. Okay, that's one piece. Let's double check that this is down in there. Now you can do 2 to 3 pieces. We're going to do 2. We're going to put this piece in about down to where the center of gravity point is, right there. So we can mark that, or we can just hold it with our finger and cut it. Again, groove it. Keep your hands away from those blades. Snap it. Throw some glue in. Okay, fair amount. You've already got some glue in there, but don't be shy with the glue here. Let's get a little glue on top, so these two pieces will glue together outside of the nose as well. Okay, there we go. And we're going to look, when we squeeze from the side, we want to see that it's rich with glue. You can spin it. If it's not rich with glue, pull it back out. You don't have plenty of glue in there. I mean, we're not going to flood the thing, but it's ahead of the center of gravity. We need to add the weight anyway. It's okay. All right. Now, if you want, you can sit and hold this. You have to kind of hold it for a while. I like to use a clamp. This is a clothespin with an extra rubber band, one of the rubber bands that came with the kit, wrapped ahead of the spring to give it extra strength. Okay, so I'll let the clamp do the work. Oh, wait, first we again need to push down, make sure that that's anchored down in the keel. And now we can clamp that. And while we do that, I'll dig out 6 pieces of our nose weight. So we're going to use 5 strips, and you can add the 6th strip on a heavier build if you need it. I'll show you how to do this. Pile up. You can do all 5 if you want, or you can, just do 2 of them or 3 of them at a time. But what we're going to do is line everything up, double it over, get everything as even as you can so that the ends are all even on both sides. The middle ones will stick out a little further. The ones that have to go around the outside will be a little shorter, but it's all going to equal out when we cut them. We're going to hold this and we're going to cut. This is a lot to cut, so you might want to do only 2 and then 3. But we're going to cut that way. Line everything back up. Cut this way. Notice we're about halfway down the folded piece. I'm going to cut towards the center in the back here. Okay. And there's some pieces sticking out. We'll just nip those. We are now going to take some of our rubber bands, 2 of them, and we'll put our nose on. Okay, there's our pieces of nose material. We'll line everything up. You can just kind of put it in your hand and use your fingers and just kind of push it together, and everything will line back up. and watch what we do. We want to place that with those tips just touching the beak, and we're going to use our hands. I like to use my pinky here. These rubber bands stretch very nicely, and we're going to start about halfway up that taper, and we're going to go forward and really stretch that rubber band on and get a really good grip on this thing. Okay? Notice it's kind of pointing down. You don't have to get that last one on so tight. You want to adjust it a little bit. Have a look. That looks pretty good. Now the next one, we're going to wind forward. It doesn't matter which way you wind it, but we're going to wind it, we're going to wind it backwards towards the nose. Okay? There we go. So 2 rubber bands is usually plenty. If you need more weight, you can add more rubber bands, or you can add the additional piece. And when you go to flight school, you learn about the nose weights. Okay? Bottom line is, when you hold the bird, whether it's by putting a pin through there and letting it pivot, or just holding it right there at the center of gravity, which is the front of the wing root, that bird should be roughly level. Okay? It's more accurate to use a pin, but you can get a rough idea. It's probably a little on the heavy side. See, I'm holding it near the center of gravity. That's about right though. Okay? If you push a pin through there, then you can balance it on the pin and get it more accurate. But I know that this will work. This might be a tad bit nose heavy, but that's actually a little easier to fly. And remember, we also have all that wet glue in there. When the water evaporates, that will lighten things up a bit, but it'll lighten it up less than you might think. So now we have a SpaceBird 12-inch model that will fly beautifully if you've built it carefully, followed the build plan, and followed these instructions. Next thing to do is some test flights by hand, and then you can put your tether in. There's a separate video for tethering, and we'll have that in a couple of days. It should be up for most of you who are watching this video, but it's going to be up in just a few days after we finish putting up this build video. That's it. I'm Birdman Schultz. Thanks for building a SpaceBird with me, and I'll see you next bird.